Good evening. This is the December 9th, 2025 open public meeting of the Needham Library Board of Trustees being held via hybrid format, allowing remote attendance. First, I will take a roll call to confirm that trustees, library staff, and persons anticipated to be on the agenda are present and can hear me. For trustees, Kay Cahill.
Here.
Erhard Grafe.
Here.
Jay Fialkov.
Here.
Megan Small.
Here.
Joshua Small.
Here.
And me, Rob Pettit. For library staff, we have Library Director Robert McLean.
Here.
Assistant Library Director Diana Fendler.
Here.
Administrative Specialist Jenna White.
Here.
And Program Specialist Gail and Dennett.
Here.
And from the town, we have Katie King, Town Manager.
Here. Welcome, Katie.
Welcome. This meeting is being recorded. If there is a problem that prevents the completion of this meeting, we will reconvene at 7 p.m. on January 13th, 2026. I hereby call this meeting of the Needham Board of Library Trustees to order at 7:03 p.m. For public comments, citizens are welcome to speak for up to 3 minutes each, not to exceed a total of 10 minutes. Citizens are encouraged to inform the library director in advance of their intention to speak. Those who provide advance notice will be called upon first. While the board will take public comments under advisement, there may be no opportunity for discussion or debate during this portion of the meeting. I request a motion to approve the minutes of the November 18th, 2025 meeting. Then we can discuss.
So moved. Second.
All right, we'll open that up for discussion for just a minute. So we're good.
I had a couple little tweaks just in the very first paragraph under the call to order. You notice in the last line it says the next meeting will take place after October 14th. I think it's supposed to be December 9th.
Good catch.
What other brief? There's just a sentence there under teen room policy continued. The first one sentence says the trustees reviewed Aaron's follow-up on Rob P. period. Oh, Rob P. October data on other teen rooms.
What page are you on? Okay, sorry.
3.
Okay, thank you.
So
Oh,
wonder if
Should be Rob P apostrophe S. Rob P.
oh, your October data you're referring to.
Yeah.
I didn't quite get what that. How that should be. If everybody's okay with that.
I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Make a motion, we have no more Robs.
Yeah.
We've reached our
I
limit.
don't think like
You
legally
have
we
the
can.
town not give out papers.
Yeah,
to
no one in
anybody
the name of Rob. Yeah.
Seems unconstitutional, but
Okay.
who am I to?
Yeah,
Or
yeah,
use
no more
middle
smalls.
No more
Yeah.
small
Definitely
lives.
not a Rob small. If there's one in the town, not allowed to
Which my name is French for, so.
be.
It's true, it is.
All right. Okay, thank you for those comments. Do we have any other comments to the November minutes? All right, hearing none, since we are all here in person, we can do a voice vote for those of us who are attending. All in favor of approving the minutes with those changes, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Great. In that case, we can move on to our next agenda item, which is a tour of the teen room.
Fantastic.
So if you want to, you could leave your stuff here if you want to take your valuables with.
So thank you, Rob and everybody, for that excellent tour, and we're excited for the teen room. Moving on to the next item on the agenda, invite Katie up here for the update from the town manager.
Hey everyone.
Oh.
Good to see you all. Thanks for having me. Well, before, I took some notes of things I thought you might be interested in, but I just wanted to update a personal update that I put up a little library outside of my house recently. And I was thinking, I was thinking I'm going to have to get a much bigger haul coming out of book sales because I had to fill it twice already. So I'm like, all right, I have neighbors that really are
That's
looking
good.
for
Good sign.
access
They
to
don't
books.
put one back in. when I
So
take one
not
out?
yet. I will work on that. Yeah. But that's been an exciting update at my house. So I thought I'd share maybe things unrelated to library, just major projects the town is working on and things come down the pike for town meeting and beyond. And then also talk through fiscal year 2027 capital and operating budget specific to the library and where we are in those processes. So in terms of major projects, I'd say two things that went to the October special town meeting that you're probably already aware of, but kind of major update to our stormwater bylaw. And this is really related to if you're kind of building pulling a building permit or changing your physical property in a kind of a substantive way, there are more requirements for stormwater management, and this has been on the list for a long time for us to tackle and update. So that got done at the October special town meeting. And we also went to town meeting with an agreement on the Stephen Palmer building and how to transition that building back to the town and kind of wind down its current residential use. And we have a committee in place that's going to be doing visioning for the town for the future use of that site. So that work is also ongoing. So that was October town meeting. Other major projects, there's already been a lot of discussion about Pollard. That was at the top of my list. So where we are in that process, the first thing is that we have been invited into the Mass School Building Authority's process to partner with them on funding. That is a hugely meaningful partnership for the town. And they share a portion of the overall project costs with us. And with that comes a lot of requirements that the MSBA has about how we run the process, deliverables that we owe to them on a particular timeline. And we are at the very tail end of the feasibility part of the process. So you all went through this for the library space study, but you do feasibility and then design and then construction. So we're just making final decisions. The Permanent Public Building Committee, which is serving as the school building committee for the Pollard within the MSBA process, they are finalizing our submission that concludes feasibility, and that really means that we've narrowed down to one option that we want to then bring into the schematic design process. So the one option, really, there were kind of four major decisions that were made along the way within feasibility. The first was, are we going to build a school for 7th and 8th graders or 6th through 8th graders? And that decision has been 6th through 8th, bringing High Rock back in with the Pollard. The second decision was, are we going to build new construction or an addition renovation? And new construction was the chosen option to meet the needs. The third choice was which site, the existing Pollard site or DeFazio, and the Pollard site has been chosen. And then lastly, what size auditorium would we include in the scope of the project? And the conclusion was a 750 seat auditorium, which is currently we have, I think, 450 seat capacity. So this would be an opportunity both to better serve the students, but also the community.
What's the town hall
needs.
capacity?
Don't know
Anyone
offhand.
know? I'm just curious.
I really should know.
400, because that's how
Okay,
many
so the-
tickets they sold in the
Okay,
gala.
that's what I was curious. So
Right.
that's good. Good.
Yes, yeah. So those were kind of the big decisions to shape the Pollard End process. And we will, the school district and the town will be going to MSBA to basically present that option, engage in a process with the board of directors at the MSBA where they'll kind of green light us or not, say, yes, you're ready to go on to schematic design. And then we'll continue on in the process. Ultimately, currently on schedule to go to town meeting in the fall of 2026 to ask for funding ultimately for construction, and then the voters in fall of also of 2026. So that's next steps on the Pollard. Other big projects that are being worked on, the planning board and a working group that they appointed have been reviewing zoning related to large houses. And so that's something that potentially the May town meeting will be seeing the results of that work in terms of how large of a single family home can you build depending on the size of your lot. And so there's been a lot of conversations about that topic for many years. That's in process. The town continues to work with the MBTA on the potential of building a quiet zone, which would kind of structurally change the 5 at-grade train crossings that go throughout town. And if we make structural changes that meet federal requirements, then it would eliminate the required sounding of the train horn. That's
Wow.
the creation of a
Including the one
quiet
right
zone.
here. Is this one of the ones being looked at?
Yes, yeah. So the 5 are Oak Street, Great Plain Ave, May Street, Rosemary, and West
That
Street.
would be a
are
great
the
accomplishment.
5. So it's something that the town's looked at for, I think, at least 15 years. It became much more of a priority, basically, after the pandemic. We heard a lot more from the community about the impact that the horns were
Mhm.
having on quality of life for folks.
Mhm.
And also the train schedule changed. So now they're running 7 days a week and on a more regular schedule. So the number of hours that the train horn is blowing is more than it used to be. So that's something we're working on to work with the T to design that project and come to an agreement if we can on construction. Other major infrastructure projects in Vision Needham Center is our current visioning process for downtown and Great Plain Ave, between basically the post office at Linden Street and Warren Street. How to kind of the goals there are how do we make needed infrastructure improvements kind of that you don't see, so underground stormwater improvements, drainage, and then some things that you do see, so pedestrian safety, thinking about the flow of traffic there, and additional usage of the right of way, and how do you share space between travel lanes, parking, bicycles, and expanded sidewalk use. So that's a lot of trade-offs in a limited amount of space. So the select board appointed a working group. They are putting together 3 plans. One would have 4 lanes of traffic, one would have 3 lanes, basically, and one would have 2 lanes. And all 3 plans will be put out to the community for feedback, input, a survey. So that's forthcoming. So look out for that. And ultimately, the select board will take in all of the feedback that they hear through the community engagement and the surveys. And ultimately, the select board will make a decision about which of the 3 versions they would like to move forward with for that project. And lastly, trees. I think this one is a little bit just more at the beginning stages, but for a long time, the town has thought about how do we preserve our existing tree canopy. And there's a working group appointed by the select board working on this as well. They are at the early stages of proposing a potential bylaw to bring to town meeting to preserve trees, particularly when there's kind of new construction. And I think being prompted by a lot of lots that get clear cut when there's turnover of properties. So that really is just like at the beginning stages, not a fully formed proposal at this point, but you'll hear, I think, more about that. And I hope you're all signed up for News You Need Them, because all of these are included in there as there are opportunities for engagement. So why don't I pause there before I dive into budget to see if there's questions about any of those items.
Said preserving, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Preserving the trees rather than like putting more in, or would that be part of it too?
Yeah, the scope of the working group is much more, it's broad. So it is like, where can we add new ones? How do we, and looking both at opportunities on public property and private property. I think that initial conversation about a bylaw in particular, as opposed to educational opportunities or funding mechanisms. The bylaw, I think, is focused on what, if any, restrictions there would be on preserving existing trees if you had something under construction, or a trade-off if trees had to come down. What would the replacement requirement be?
Yeah, I think extra shade would be great. I know at least on Chestnut, it gets extremely hot.
Yeah.
There's not very much shade, and then, you know, people have to jack up their ACs more, and it's more useful. So, yeah, anything for extra trees.
Yeah. Speaking of trees and landscaping, we have over the years here discussed what to do with the front, whether the front of the library could somehow be made to look a little more landscaped and attractive. So just that's something that comes up for us, and maybe, I don't know, at some point we might want to try to get a little better front landscape on our porch and lawn.
Our bushes have a huge canopy out front.
Our bushes, that's all it is, like a giant bush.
Yeah. Great.
I'll be eager to hear, as we transition to the conversation about budget, the way that Pollard is shaping budget decisions and whether or not we have specific, ways that we're approaching this budgeting process this year with that in light. Rules or boundaries that have been set by their select board or finance committee.
Yeah, great, good, perfect segue. Why don't I dive into budget? So first, I'll start with the capital budget. So we every year approve a 5-year capital plan. Departments submit all of the anticipated capital needs, and a capital need is something that is $25,000 or more and has a useful life of 5 years or more. And that's a pretty broad cover of items. So it can be, a dump truck that DPW uses all the way up to Pollard and everything in between.
Right.
So it's quite an expansive list of needs and priorities. So where we are in the process, and I have kind of some good news and some bad news to share with this group. So if we look at the submissions for just fiscal year 2027, so these are things that would go to town meeting in May for this upcoming fiscal year. So not looking at the 4 years beyond that. If we exclude extraordinary projects, which would be the Pollard, it would be, we need new facilities, whole facilities for DPW. Those are extraordinary projects. So excluding those, the requests that were submitted for fiscal year 27 capital totaled about $36 million across our kind of general fund departments. So all town and school buildings, infrastructure, fleet, vehicles, IT, all of that. Our estimated resources available to fund the request is less than 50% of that. So kind of just to give you a sense of the decision-making and kind of the number of priorities that we're able to. I've made a recommendation to the select board that we anticipate resources to fund about 17 million of that, which again is less than half. In terms of library requests that were submitted, I have recommended funding for the library technology plan. That's in tier 1, which is, those are the ones that we're saying the select board that I'm recommending right now. We have the resources to fund this. And so that would support the security cameras. But the design for the children's area is not recommended for funding. And that my recommendation is to defer to future years. And, I'd say high level, there are very few projects that don't merit being funded that are submitted. There's very few that I think just on their own, if we had the resources, nearly all we should do, obviously, including the children's area. So tough budget choices. And I know kind of not the next steps that we want to hear for the library's overall phase projects. But just wanted to give you a sense of that. And in terms of next steps, the select board kind of votes the final project capital recommendations at their next meeting, which is on the 16th. Ultimately, those projects that are approved by the select board, we keep working on them to get them in the shape they need to go as in warrant articles to town meeting. And town meeting will vote on them, not as an entire capital plan, but on the individual projects.
Quick question, in terms of I'll think of it as a delay of the children's funding. Do we have any sense overall? I know that the town budget is under a lot of pressure, but in terms of, is that something that we likely should, bring back again next year?
Yes.
Yes.
In fact,
Yes.
if I could sort of state it a little bit differently, which is, first of all, we're all sensitive to what you're dealing with town budget. We've persuaded ourselves for sure that, the really important next step in terms of the renovation is to, get the children's, and we were happy to think about making the case for that to be included this year, though we appreciate difficult choices you have to make. I view this news as day one of our effort to make sure it's part of the budget next year, and we'll use this time, to make the case and get you and your team and everybody comfortable, because, it's important, but, we understand, we work with you and we're comfortable in trusting your judgment, but our judgment is this is important and we don't want to forget about this. We had a plan, that included the next phase, and maybe after everybody sees what's finished with the teen area, that'll be all the more reason for people to get excited about what we can do in the children's area.
Understood, and it's your role to advocate for your project, so please do. And again, I am a huge supporter of this project, and it's just a matter of resources. And I think too, just to give some context for projects, when I'm looking at all of the items submitted, part of the consideration too is looking at design and construction together, because when we fund design, our hope and intent is that we can immediately follow it when that design concludes to fund construction. So I'm kind of looking at it, even though it's, it was just the design submitted for this year, we're looking at it as a whole thing, because we try not to, when at all possible, we try not to fund design and then not be able to move to construction. So part of it is trying to think about what do we think next year might look like. I don't have a crystal ball, but it's just part of kind of when we're thinking about, all of the trade-offs with each submission. So.
How are the projections, or how can you sort of understand that delta in requests to available money and going forward? So like, is it down economy? Is it poor investments? Is it just the fact that we have all these projects building up? Is it all of them? What's more context, I guess? And I can also pay attention to town meeting too when it comes up.
Yeah, that's a good question. I guess maybe I'll answer a little bit Earhart's earlier question because it ties in. So resources available for capital really fall in three categories. The first is cash, and it's free cash. So it's money that at the end of last fiscal year, if we had any residual money that didn't get spent, either because our revenue came in higher than we had estimated or our costs ended up being lower, we kind of close out the year with a balance. That ultimately becomes free cash the next fiscal year. And that is a funding source that we use for capital projects, because it's one-time money that you can't rely on to fund your operating budget, but you can spend it on one-time things. So if you look in the capital budget and you see that something's funded by cash, that's kind of the context for that. And so every year we estimate what we believe our free cash to be the next year. And I'd say it's not, there's a lot of dynamics to kind of how much do we think we might end up. So I wouldn't be able to pinpoint a particular trend in free cash, but the other funding source is kind of issuing bond and debts where we can pay the debt payment with the property tax revenue that we know we get every year just from within the tax levy. And so that's a set amount where it's a certain percent of our annual revenue from property taxes that we set aside to not spend on operating so that we can invest it back in our buildings, back in our infrastructure. So that's a pretty predictable figure. And I guess the way we think about it is if you're going to bond a project, it's for 30 years. So you might not be necessarily competing entirely with other projects that are being requested now. You're also kind of being built into the reality of what had previously been funded, because we're still paying down the debt from the previous approvals. So that's the second. And then the third is debt exclusion, and that's like for the Pollard, or when we go to the voters and say there is debt that will be above and beyond anything we could pay for within our existing budget, and the voters decide, yes, we're willing to pay property taxes above and beyond. So we've done that for the public safety buildings, Sunita Williams, and that's the Pollard. So that really is in one sense, the Pollard doesn't necessarily compete directly with the children's area design, because the Pollard is, something we'll never be able to support within the existing budget. And really the voters decide whether it's something that you will pay additional for or not. Whereas the children's project, we would try to fund within the revenue we know we already are going to get.
Is there anything we can do as a board going forward for next year to help, get us, on the map, get us higher in the line? Let's just say, is there anything that we, that would be helpful in that for us to do?
Yeah, I have an answer, and I don't know if you're going to love it, but yes, you can always advocate and always convey the need and the value to the town. I will say the part I don't think you're going to like is I think that I am clear on the need and the value and the select board. So it's, again, it's not that it wasn't seen
It's
as.
not that it's not worthy.
Yeah.
No, but we were all,
So
the library folks worked hard to put together some talking points to try and make the case, and that we'll continue to share that information that we were collecting with. So
is that delta between like the capital request and the capital availability, is that a typical number? That's like, I mean, I've never done town budgeting before, but it seems like more than 100% more than what your capital requests are, like not being at the budget seems like a very large delta. And like it doesn't seem like you can run a town on, like, you can only fund 50% of your projects. Like, do you understand what I'm asking?
I do, and I don't know like the 10-year trends to be able to, I don't want to give you misinformation, but I will say there's never been a year, and there never will be a year where we can fully fund all of our capital needs, so there's always going to be a delta, but I just can't say exactly
if this is a large delta or not.
Number. Right.
I think kind of backing up to what Jay said, obviously this is an opportunity for us. We would have rather had it funded this year so we can keep the momentum going, but I think we'll still have momentum based on the excellent work that's being done right now with the teen room. And, we saw it today, but the town will see it in a few months. And I think that will show that we're able to deliver these projects on time and with a very reasonable budget. But I think, there's a lot of capital needs in the town, but the Pollard project and really the Mitchell project too show the value of keeping things up to shape and keeping things maintained into their best and highest use. That if we don't make these periodic investments, and that might be part of our advocacy over the next year, if we're not keeping everything kind of in the state of the art, it's very easy for things to fall behind. And before you know it, you have a facility that needs wholesale replacement rather than iterative upgrades. So hopefully we can kind of emphasize that and really show the value that for a relatively modest investment, we get a pretty big use. I mean, the children's room it's probably our most heavily used space, I would guess, or one of the most heavily used spaces in the library. And it certainly has a lot of potential that I think could be unlocked. So hopefully we can continue to make that case that there's a lot of bang for the buck here, just as there is with the teen room.
The combined cost, assuming that both the design and the work would represent, as I remember, an extremely small percentage of the town budget compared to the benefit that the town would get.
All the children.
I know.
I find it, I'm disappointed to be frank. I don't think our children's area right now is quite up to snuff compared to neighboring places. And I've heard from some of my peers, they don't bring their kids here, they go to the other towns around us, which is, really disheartening for me to hear. I'm very glad that we had the teen space going through. I'm glad we were able to get that through. But I was really looking forward to revamping that. Like, that was a big part that I was really interested in, all of the talk and all of the, the plans and everything when we spoke with, and, it was a hard pill to swallow to not go for everything to begin with the advice of the PPBC. We broke it down, and I just am not really feeling heartened that it's going to come back, given that huge delta and the other stuff that's coming. But, we've got more time and we have more ability to advocate, as, Jay and Kay were talking about. But I can see the arguments that, it's fine the way it is because it's functional. But anyways, so we'll see.
Yeah, I would like us to all remember that this will be the fourth version of the timeline for this project. The first version was we do the construction all at once for the 4 key areas, lowest overall cost, as well as lowest overall impact on our patrons, because we're doing all the construction at once. And we worked with Katie to revise that plan, to chunk it into 4 projects that could be done separately. And we talked about how we could stage those so that we could be doing design, construction, design, construction, design, construction. And we separated those out so that it would be design and construction, then design, then construction in interweaving years, so that we wouldn't be able to do constant construction over the course of 4 years. And so this will be then putting gaps in between construction and design phases. So this will be the 4th way that we've pushed this out, which means greater inflationary costs on construction, and means that we don't know how long the design that we originally started with might still hold across those 4 areas as things change. So I think that's important to keep in mind for all of us as we're advocating for this, that we're trying to be reasonable on this stuff, and we're really trying to act in good faith on this. But we also want to keep in mind our patrons and be true to the vision that we laid out with the initial design.
Is it to operating?
Sure.
Okay. So with the operating budget, the decision-making comes on a bit of a later timeline. So departments have submitted all of their requests for FY27. I'm reviewing all of those. My recommended operating budget is due at the end of January. So I don't have any decisions. This is all still in process, and reviewing the base budget that Rob submitted. So what was the cost to do exactly what we're doing this year, but for next year, and then the added investments requested. And I'm well familiar with all of those. So in a good way, there was nothing new to me in there because I know the library budget so well. So thank you for that. So I'm reviewing that, and my recommended budget, the budget that ultimately goes to town meeting is the finance committee's budget. And so they also are starting their review process, and their budget is released. Usually their draft is end of February and their final budget is due mid-March. So they also will start the process for the presentations from all the departments and working with your liaison to the finance committee.
And for the FinCom, is there anything that you want to flag to us that we should probably be prepared to defend, so to speak, or be prepared to advocate for in particular?
I'd say the primary additional investment is the part-time young adult reference librarian, and because that was requested last year, I actually feel like the finance committee will be well familiar with that. I'm trying to think if there's a new member too. But in a good way, I think a lot of that kind of base work has already been done. I would just say this isn't a comment about the finance committee, but just overall kind of the budget context that we're operating in. Last year's budget, from all of the requests from town departments, we added just one partial FTE on the town side across all town departments. So not even a full person, just a 0.4. So that was where we were last year. I think I'm envisioning a similar situation of tough choices this year. So again, it's not anything specific to the library, but just the context overall of how much we may be able to invest in beyond just sustaining existing municipal services. I think will be somewhat limited.
Does that mean there's not a blanket assumption like no DSR folders will be approved, which was the kind of story last year?
Last year, the town manager did not recommend any in her recommended budget, and then that 0.4 FTE increase was the only investment the finance committee ended up bringing to town meeting. I'm not starting at a point of no to all of them. I'm still in the review.
Okay.
So it's just relative to what are our revenue estimates relative to the total requests that came in? Because the other component of it too is before you get to additional investments, it's, how much is it going to cost us next year just to do what we're already doing? And that figure tends to move, obviously, with inflation and tariffs and things like that. Part of the work the departments do over the summer is to give us good estimates for just maintaining. And so, if we were in a world where all of a sudden costs are coming down, maybe we have more to do investments.
This was even with other budget cuts last year, like I think there were like 10 positions that were axed, for lack of a better word, in the school department. So like we freed up some space there, but going forward, still it's not going to have an effect, it seems like.
So for fiscal year 2026, the school department reduced their FTE, but their overall budget still was increased.
Okay.
So it wasn't a budget reduction,
Okay.
even though they had a staffing reduction.
Okay.
I know I'm not the bearer of great news, but this is, just where we are in the process. And I just want to make sure that
Thank you.
you all know what I know at this point. And yep.
Perfect.
I'll
Well,
stay updated.
Thank you, Katie, for the update. Obviously, we'll keep the dialogue going.
Yes.
We feel very strongly about phase 2,
Yes.
and we'll be advocating for that over the next year. But we look forward to working with your office
Yes.
as we continue to advocate for that.
Yes. And I just could just conclude, the library is doing amazing things, and it's still like a beloved community asset. So this is kind of, we're in not great times in terms of being able to do all the things we want to do, but it doesn't stop the team from doing wonderful work, and you as well. So thank you for that.
And Katie's doing a story time.
I am. I just got my
Cool.
4 books that I'm going to practice.
Awesome.
Very excited, but great. Thank you all.
All right. Thanks for coming tonight.
Really appreciate you coming.
In honor of today's news, it'll be Casey at the back.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. So moving to our next agenda item, we have the director's report.
Thank you, Rob. I'll start with going over some of the department highlights from November. Usually we're a little tentative about food in the library, but we had 2 great programs for kids in November with Food Explorers, where they got to make pumpkin mousse trifles, and then they got to create chocolate cherry cheesecakes. So that was fun and went off without any building maintenance hitches. So thanks to Paula and her team for that creative program for kids. Also last month, we had the first construction story time led by Ken Sargent, our owner's project manager. So he read 4 books that are listed here, including Good Night Construction Site, which is a follow-up to the popular construction site book. 47 people came. It was great. I think Ken was very happy that Paula joined him and led the group in the songs and the finger play. So Ken just read the books. The second one was this morning that Ken also read picture books to our youngest patrons. And then Wendy, she attended literacy night at Newman School and connected with 25 families regarding the library and our resources and how to support their efforts with their kids around literacy. For technical service department, just want to note these 2 big projects that have been completed in November by this department. The relocation project for the large print collection is done. So it's been a lot of work, and that's probably the biggest improvement for all that we have been doing on the first floor outside the children's room and moving stuff around. We really wanted to give some of the best real estate and easily accessible real estate to the large print collection. So that's now been done. We've also expanded some room for the new book collection and have created a lot of nice in-shelving display while we also are not using the lowest shelving and the
Mm.
highest shelving. So it's more user-friendly now. We're really excited that the tech services staff and circulation department staff collaborated seamlessly and a real group effort to get that work done.
Congratulations for completing that big task.
Very impressive.
And the serialization project for adult graphic novels is completed. That's a big deal, and we hope that helps to make that collection more accessible for those readers. Moving on to building maintenance. So I just included outside of all of the regular work they do every day, every week, every month, there's just some things noted here that occurred in November from service of our elevators, regular service for our elevators, to new ballast being installed. The pest control company came, and we were glad to note that there was no activity again. And then I've added a new section to the report, just community engagement. I thought this would be a nice addition for trustees to know some of the work that we're doing outside of this building on a regular basis. So here I just noted that on November 12th, Diana went to the center at the Heights and did a coffee talk where she spoke about library resources, digital and print, and what we have for those patrons. Erin went to Pollard Middle School and spoke to and joined the library club. So that was a nice interaction. And then again, Wendy went to the Newman School's literacy night on the same night that Diana was having a coffee talk at the center of the Heights. So I'll keep that in. I just think it's nice to call it out instead of perhaps having it in different departments. So it may sometimes be duplicated, but it's hopefully helpful.
Gives us an idea of what's in the outreach that's happening.
Yeah, as we continue to expand on that and make new connections and partnerships, I think that's important to show, especially over the course of the next year, as we hope some of those partnerships and connections help us with things that may come up. Under personnel, we have interviews we reposted the children's reference librarian, the part-time position, and received applications, and we are interviewing 3 candidates at the end of this week and also next Monday. So we're looking forward to getting a replacement. This is Elliot's job, who left us in October. Karen Donahue, I think I shared this news with you via email, but she is our new circulation supervisor. She started in that role on November 24th, right before Thanksgiving. Karen has been with us for almost 31 years as a library assistant in the circulation department. She knows it all. She's a true professional. Our staff respect her and love working with her. So she's really jumped into the role and is meeting with every member of the circulation department to hear from them about thoughts and ideas that they have. So really excited to have Karen join the leadership team of the department.
Congratulations to
Yes,
Karen.
Karen.
Yeah, it's great.
Also, the person over my shoulder, I wanted to note that last month, Gay Ellen came back so enthusiastic. Maybe she wants to say a couple of words from
Certainly, I had
attending.
a wonderful time at the library marketing and communications conference. I came back with a lot of good ideas, a lot of things for us to try to implement and to standardize for some of the stuff we're already doing. And I desperately want to go back next year because it was a lot of fun and I did a lot of nice networking with people across the country. Turns out there are some marketing coordinators in actual buildings, which surprised me. They're not librarians, but there are also a lot of librarians who are also doing my job too. So that was unique and I had a good time.
Yeah, good.
It was great timing for Galen to find this opportunity and for us to, with your support, forward for her to attend, because the action plan include some priority items regarding how we communicate with patrons and looking to see where we can make improvements. So Galen's going to be key in those efforts as we move forward this year and next and many years to come.
Some of this stuff can actually be applied to our 5-year plan upcoming. With some of the stuff that I learned about how you're doing surveys and the like, and how you can get a better response.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
great. That'd be great.
So that was a great investment, and yeah, we're excited by Galen's enthusiasm that she's already shared with us. And then just a list here of meetings that I've had. I just want to note a couple of them that relate to the action plan. So Diane met with Amy Halson, the Director of Communications and Community Engagement for the town of Needham, just to get her thoughts as we started our efforts to come up with a style guide for the library, which is sort of connected to our marketing efforts and our communication plan, just so that we have an agreed upon style guide for how we communicate, whether in print or in digital, and have templates that we can use to save staff time. So we met with her to pick her brain and get some ideas. So that was time well invested. And then the next morning we met with Tatiana and Taylor, the head of HR and assistant head of HR, to talk about the staffing analysis priority item in the action plan. And we developed a questionnaire, which we sent out last Friday to all staff, asking them to complete it, telling us about what they do and their thoughts about how it can be improved, or their ideas, other things we're not doing that we should be doing, or conversely, are the things maybe we could look at giving up. Does everything make sense? So that was a really interesting meeting because they're the experts on staffing. And so we were able to come away and refine our questionnaire and in order to get some really good information from our staff. So we're working on that. And so I just want to.
Oh, and just about the style guide too. If you ever need input, I do have 30-some years of communications experience,
yes.
So feel free to reach out.
Excellent. Oh, thank you. We will for sure. Yeah. Oh, there was something okay. We have an open position in the tech services department because Andy is now a full-time technical service assistant, which we hope to act on in the coming month. And these things this week, we hope that the job posting will go up for the full-time library assistant position in the circulation department, which was Karen's job. So we've completed the revision of that job description and have sent all the information to HR, and they're working to get that posted this week. Because of the December holidays, we're looking to have that job posting up more than 2 weeks, in case there are people who may be traveling or busy. So we'll have it up a little bit longer than 2 weeks to make sure we get a great pool of candidates. So we're looking forward to interviewing selected candidates in early January, in mid-January, on my birthday. So we're moving on that. So things are moving along, and our great partners in HR are helping make that so. So that is good. Not related to personnel, but maybe this is more community engagement. The Poet Laureate program. So I think I've shared information with you via email. A couple things. So most recently, yesterday, Ann and I were interviewed by Frederica Saylor from Needham Observer. She's doing an article on the two ongoing initiatives. One is the Sidewalks of Needham, which is the community crowdsourced poem that Anne put together, and we launched to the world right before Thanksgiving. So that was really pushing at all of our service desks to get into the hands of Needham residents. Over 90 people submitted, including some trustees, some words and phrases that Anne took and used to write this beautiful poem, using the idea of sidewalks connecting us. It's really beautiful. If you haven't read it, please do. The other initiative going on, which is just fun and something that we hope the next poet laureate will continue. It's a nice tradition. We have gift poems at all the service desks right now. There's a red ribbon, a green ribbon, a white ribbon, a blue ribbon, and they're all different poems celebrating winter that Anne, our poet laureate, selected. She did not write them, but she selected them. So the perfect size for stocking stuffer gifts if you want to take them. We've really happy with Anne and her commitment to this program and commitment to Needham.
She's done a lot.
We have more planned. We kind of spilled the beans a little with Frederica, so maybe she'll include it in her column. But Anne has done a lot of education with different groups, from the schools to churches to this CAF to here with the Memory Cafe, reaching out, talking about poetry, helping groups create poems. So this winter, in anticipation of April being National Poetry Month, we're asking Needhams to submit their poems to us, and we will select a number of poems that will be showcased at 3 town buildings for the month of April. And we'll encourage everybody to visit those 3 buildings, read these poems. So it's called Needham Poems with an exclamation point. We're turning poems into a verb. Despite so Needham Poems. So that will.
Was it ever a verb before? I don't know.
So that will launch this winter. So that's.
I know we extended her term,
right?
You know, but at some point, if she can help us find a worthy successor to all of her great efforts.
Yeah. So this winter we'll get the word out. We're looking for a new poet laureate, and hope to select one at least by mid-May, so that the final month of Anne's term, June 2026, they can shadow Anne and meet with Anne and get her input, so that they're ready to take over on July 1st, and then they'll have their own term. But yeah, I'm pretty excited about it.
Lots of activity in the poetry.
Yeah, one last thing on that. The trustees were kind enough to approve $2,000 from Library State Aid to support this program in FY26. Some good fiscal news from Town Hall. Town Hall had $550 in ARPA money that needed to be spent by the end of December on the arts. So we were able to pay Anne's stipend from that money that we owed her, and then to recoup $50 worth of expenses related to poet laureate bookmarks. So we were able to save $550 in Library State Aid that had been set aside to support those expenses. So quickly on the team room expansion and renovation, there's not much new here, just some things that I just want to leave here that they're pretty important. Just to let you know, we're on time and on budget, and that everyone continues to hold offsite programming for teens, which is great. Moving on to the financial reports, the FY26 report is concluded, and everything is on track with our spending. We probably, as Katie noted, free cash is made up of money that we turn back, and because of some of our openings and vacancies, we probably are on track to turn back some salary money. Which if that money is more than 3%, we need to explain ourselves. So we've done that the past 2 fiscal years. So FYI, so
Yes.
some of that we'll probably be adding to some of that free cash again next year because of that. Not just because of the vacancies, but sometimes new hires are making less than what was budgeted for the person who vacated that position too. Just to let you know, while we're talking about operating budgets, our FY27 operating budget request, as you may remember, our base budget, which is just to do what we're doing now next year, was 1.3% increase over FY26. And when we add in our 3 DSR 4s, it's a 3% increase over FY26.
Compared to other departments, right, that had larger increases, larger percentages.
Well, there was an article in the Observer last week about the property taxes for FY27, and in it, it noted that the town was looking at an FY27 operating budget that was 4.8 to 5% higher than FY26. So our 1.3% base and 3%, including the DSR 4s, is well below that number.
So that's
Just to
good
note that.
fodder for the pass along to emphasize for the finance committee.
Perhaps. Moving on to library state aid account. I think this afternoon you may not have seen, but I sent an email out to trustees about some good library state aid news, which I'll get to. But as noted here, we have some of our expenses from November, about $850. As you can see here, there is the $50 adjustment that came with those a journal correction. So we recovered that $50 from the ARPA money into this account. But to get to the FY26 library state aid money, last week on December 3rd, the MBSC met and certified another grouping of public libraries, including Needham. So our award is just over 40. Our initial award, it's in 2 payments, is just over $40,000, which is really nice. Last year, FY25, our total award was 79,000 plus. So based on this, we should be around 80,600. So a nice increase. Some libraries have seen a slight decrease. So that's good news in these times. One thing I noted in the email, which just may be of interest because I keep talking about the non-resident circulation calculation part of the library state aid formula. And that's, we get a certain chunk of little money, about 21 cents or so, every time we check out an item to someone who doesn't live in Needham here in the library face to face. So that part of our award looks to be increasing about 5.6% over FY25.
That means we have a fair number of non-Needham residents coming in here and actually checking out books here in the library. Is that?
We have more than last year. Yes. So it's nice. We don't do what we do to attract non-residents, but if what we're doing works, more non-residents will show up and check things out, whether that's have a collection they're interested in or programs or services they're interested in. So there's just some economic benefit
To having
for them
non-residents.
to come here and check out things. So you can see some libraries, if you look at that list that I share, you have a very high non-resident circulation award. And that may have to do with the size of the library or geography or what have you. But yeah, but we are moving to get more money. So that always helps, so we can tackle
I
things.
noticed when I came around to getting signatures for running for reelection, there were a fair number of people here who are not from Needham, because, you know, you have to
Mhm.
ask people.
Yep.
if they're from Needham
Same
to get their
experience.
signature. Yeah. so.
Or they just didn't want to sign.
No. That too.
Moving on to the trust fund report, you can see the disbursements that are here that Rob just signed, so we can pay those bills. But also, I just want to bring your attention, it's also on the list of gifts for this meeting. Ann McFade has made another generous donation to the trust fund that she set up to help support visually impaired collections or services that we may offer.
And we're glad to see Ann still hard at work. In
Yep.
case when we come visit the library.
Can
Yeah.
we, in the minutes, just reflect that the trustees thanks Anne for her new round of support for the vision, the library.
I'd certainly add my thanks to that. It's a wonderful gift.
Moving on to the other reports. Well, the DEIB staff efforts, I just want to note here, I think in the past, I've sort of concentrated on like programs and displays that we've done, but here, just included staff efforts, professional development efforts too, as well as some work we do for collection support for our patrons. So Erin attended a webinar on Korean myths and folklore as being inspiration for young adult novels. I read it and I'm like, I wish I went.
It's
Like,
very
I wish I knew
K-pop
about
demon
it.
hunters.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. And also a webinar on manga for libraries. So I think I've said this before, and it's just like DEIB efforts are like baked into what we do. Like it's just like, and this is just an example of like, of course everyone would be interested in learning about Korean myths and folklore because it's just what we do. It's
This is an extra. This is
right.
inherent.
And then collection support. So Children's put together a book list of chapter books with South Asian characters. So some of that meaningful work for patrons to independently find the stories that connect with their children. So those are noted here. And then the two other reports on DIB occurrences in November for things that were itemed. Those total 119 that were added to the collection. And then the new and withdrawn. So this is probably with the ending of the moving all the collections and the weeding projects is probably, as you can see, the fall from the withdrawn orders from October to November. We have sort of have wrapped up the, we've caught up with the weeding that had not occurred. So, and that we want to thank the staff again for all that work. This doesn't just, these books don't pop off the shelf themselves. And we also want to thank the Friends for being so patient and all the work that they do, because all these books end up in the Friends workroom and they go through them. And they decide if they can sell them or not. So they involuntarily become part of all these big projects, and they've done all that extra work without complaint and with grace. So we appreciate
That's what
that.
friends are for.
Team effort.
And you know, once again, Faith, if you wouldn't mind including in the minutes that the trustees want to acknowledge both the staff, all the staff work for the reading that they've done and the Friends volunteer work that supports that.
All right, is that it for the director's report? Thank you very much, Rob. So we'll shift to new business. The first action item is a vote to accept the list of gifts. The list is there in the report, and it is the single gift of $5,000 donated by Ann McFate. Do we have a motion to approve that?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All right, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion passes unanimously. Thank you. The next item under new business is discussion of the potential to install an MBTA bus shelter in front of the library. So I'll pass it over to Rob to discuss what that would look like. And there's some materials in the packet as well.
Thanks, Rob. Earlier this fall, the town manager's office reached out to us about this program of the MBLT, the Better Bus Project, to create more and better bus stop amenities and shelters. So the town manager's office working with the DPW, and on this effort, you may have noted the new bus shelter at the common in front of town hall that was installed as part of this project. So Needham wants to make public transportation more accessible for patrons, for residents, which is fantastic. Please note that it's fantastic. And would like to add additional shelters in Needham, and is looking first at public property where it would be easier for it to happen versus private property. So they reached out to us to gauge our thinking regarding a bus shelter in front of the library on Highland Avenue. We met with Tyler, Diana, and I from DPW, and he marked out on the lawn a few orange dots to reflect the size of the shelter on whether it was to the right of the walkway or to the left of the walkway. We then discussed it with Rob and gave our feedback, and then the town manager's office asked that the issue be brought to the full board for discussion.
What was your feedback?
No.
Do you want to share some of the thoughts on that? Or
Where theoretically they're asking it even, I mean, I know on Highland, but that's a large area up there, like where
So-
theoretically,
Right.
So the
You know,
corner
the
right from the
walkway?
library.
Our lawn.
on the
On the
corner,
lawn,
on the lawn, in the corner, like right, like across from,
either to
Take
the
the parking lot
left
and the
of
next
the
street.
walkway to the front door, or to the right of the walkway to the front door on
So
the
right, okay.
grass. So it's 17 feet long, 5 feet deep, and 8 feet high.
Mhm.
It's quite something. It would have a real impact on the historical nature of the library. One thing that we did note just in our observations that there aren't many commuters heading that way. Mostly they're across the street waiting in front of the church property to head inbound.
Yeah.
We also were given an indication that at the end of the line,
Junction.
sorry, thank you. There's another location that is
Yeah.
town property that they would be looking at too. But I'm not sure that this location heading that way in front of the library really helps out with what the goal is. And I think it would have quite an impact on the library.
So my thought, because I've looked at the shelter in the common, which looks very nice and is a major upgrade, from what used to be there. But I pulled some of the stop data because the T actually publishes data by bus stop, even by day and by hour. It's very, very, very detailed. And as Rob mentioned, because this is going inbound to a terminal, there's very limited ridership. It's on the order of less than one person a day.
Yeah.
On average. So I think, I'm very much in favor of the Better Bus Project is actually fantastic. If you look at what else it's doing, it's much needed because a ton of people use buses, and the existing shelters in a lot of places are really insufficient for the people that use them. But I think in this case, if you weigh the benefit,
The one person a day seems to make the case that's not a spot that.
it's not going to be
I mean,
heavily
going on
used.
the
And there's also the library. There's a large
Yeah.
warm public space.
Yeah.
If you're waiting there for a while, you can be in a warm place for most of that.
And also the other side of the street. I mean, I know
It's the
high school
side where
kids
you would want
do
it.
use this,
Right.
kids, some of the kids who, not a lot, but there are kids who don't have a car at their disposal who get on that bus. I know some, and, but they're on the other side of the street waiting to go.
Is there another shelter besides the one right by Town Common, further in between?
There's a very old decrepit shelter at Junction, which might be
No, but the
replaced as
junction,
well.
but even besides, because it makes sense to have them on that side of the road.
Mhm.
Right, to have it on the side of the high school and the church across the street would make.
That's what I'm
some-
saying.
Is that, do you know
Which is
if that's
probably
been
perfect.
looked at all, or why they chose this side of the
It's-
street when?
It's low hanging fruit because it's
Or
public
even
property.
further down, further away from the junction, because the junction and the town. It's already, it's further down by like,
Well, they want it on this side, I suppose. Right.
Right, they have to
Right,
move
but
the
if
bus
they would
stop
go
then.
by-
by
Stop,
Cafe
yeah.
Fresh or.
Well, the stop is after the light.
Out
though.
by,
Right.
Yeah, certainly cafe, like Needham
This was
Heights
like
would
light
be
timing and
the
stuff.
ideal place for that because it's a transit connection
And
and
going
it's
the
going
other
inbound
direction.
where there's much higher
Yeah.
ridership. But we're just looking at this
Yeah,
one
for
this
us.
Yeah.
one site, and
I mean, if the ridership's one person a day at that stop,
Makes sense.
why would they even?
We even have staff who use the bus, and are
Yeah, but it's the
They
end of the
go-
line.
they go
You
late and
can-
going that
toward-
way.
You can walk from wherever you're going to the,
Well, isn't the end of the line at Needham Junction?
yes.
Right.
Yeah.
But to go from the library to Needham.
most of the
Okay.
connectivity
By
is
bus.
going
Most
the
of the
other
other
way
connectivity is going the other direction.
Yeah.
From
because it
Needham.
connects with the Green Line and
Right.
then with other buses at
Yeah,
Watertown.
exactly.
So if most of the traffic is going north, not
Does
south.
the MBTA not want to put one of their own bus stop shelters at the Needham Junction? Because
I think that might be replaced. I think that there's just a
Yeah.
number of shelters that might be on offer.
gotcha.
So it's an effort to identify places where they could be installed without having to buy land.
I mean, we don't even qualify for the eligibility criteria, so it's on page 7 of the thing you sent us. Based on that ridership data you just quoted, the eligibility criteria says 70+ average weekday boardings.
This is not that.
And also, I did, when Katie was here, I mentioned that, we have periodically brought up the question of having that small front space re-landscaped.
This isn't what you had in
That
mind.
would not.
If we had 70+ boardings a day, then I'd say,
Yeah,
well,
that makes no
sense.
function before aesthetics, but in this case, yeah, it
Whatever
seems-
shelters they're thinking about should be on the other side of the street going
Right.
in the other
Wherever it
direction,
needs.
wherever they wanna,
I don't think they want to eminent domain the church.
right?
Well, in front of the high school, Memorial.
There's a post office.
Post office is federal. They don't own that either.
So anyway, it sounds like are you reading the room here? It sounds like.
Did they need a formal vote from us or just kind of feedback?
I couldn't vote. It sounded like they wanted to.
We could phrase
All right,
something
so-
based on your ridership, based on the ridership data gathered by our.
Well, no, I don't even think it needs to be that. I think it just be like motion to accept the MBTA's request to use libraries, like motion to accept the MBTA's request to use Needham public library land to build a shelter.
Reject.
Right, and we just vote no.
But I wouldn't mind putting a little reason in there about low ridership data that we gathered. No?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, a motion can have, as much precatory language as we want. We can certainly say that, based on ridership data.
And the impact on the
Historical facade.
Like,
historical
but
society.
like, do we need to give her, I'm not trying to, but like, I think more, like, giving more and more information, like, things gives more and more
I
things
think
that people
Yeah.
can, then,
Argue
thanks
with.
to the wonderful minutes
Argue
that
with.
Faith keeps,
correct.
there will be a record
Right.
Point
accompanying
taken.
that resolution that will reflect
But-
our.
but-
I mean, no is a complete
But
answer.
the two main reasons are, it makes no sense, given the limited ridership going in that direction,
But I,
plus the impact on our historical society.
I guess my argument is from our standpoint, I don't know that we need to give a reason. We can just say no. Like, we don't have to, like, our motion does not have to be
Doesn't have.
no because X, Y, and Z. No is a complete answer.
Right, but don't we want the reasons for our no to be conveyed to the people who ask for our opinion?
Who is asking for
The town and MBTA.
the office of the town manager? The office of the town manager. Okay.
I think, I'm fine either way, but I think we have avenues of providing feedback in addition to this formal vote that
Yeah.
can provide context.
All right, so we so move that motion to motion to accept the town manager and MBTA's request to place a bus shelter on Needham Public Library property at the corner of Rosemary and Highland Avenue.
Okay, so it's a motion to accept.
It's a motion to accept, correct?
Yeah. Do we have a second?
Second.
Right. All in favor? All opposed?
No.
Nay.
No.
All right, we've got a record of that, and I would thank the town for bringing that up to us.
Yeah.
It's a great idea. Hopefully, there's a better spot where that can go and be used by more bus riders and encourage bus ridership.
And if the town and MBTA have questions, I'm sure we can
Yes.
refer them to our minutes
Yep. And the YouTube recording.
and the
Um,
YouTube recording.
All right, so moving on, since we got a number of items on the agenda, I'll move to the draft of the new statistics report and turn it over to Rob for that.
So the November report is here. It is different based on your feedback from the October meeting or the November meeting representing, putting forward the October stats. We have included the library of things. So 288 items were checked out in the month of November. We've also made the coloring uniform on the people so that it's not 9 out of 10.
We appreciate that.
So this is another draft to bring to you with November's numbers. Again, November 24 numbers aren't here because we're not confident that they work.
Yep.
So a year from now, we were looking forward to having a new draft we can share with you about how we're representing the most recent months, but also comparing it to a year past. So are there further comments or adjustments? Trustees would.
I would just, the one other thing, just looking at this, is the font sizes are all different and
Mhm.
they're not all the same font either. Like and it might just be the size and bolding, but like the total program attendance seems to be one font, and the in-person library visits, website visits, questions answered seems to be a different font. My guess is they're all the same font, but because of the size difference
I
and
think
bolding
it's the
difference.
fit in the box.
Yeah, they all look, but it makes it look different, and like the kerning's a little different here and there. Like, I think it just needs to, and I'm not a graphic designer anyway, nor do I know how to fix these things. But just from a visual standpoint, things look different here and there.
If we're using it as like a public
If we're
facing
using a
document.
public facing document, correct, which I think we decided that we want to. Like, for example, like under the total circulation, checkout of physical materials is not bolded, but like new library cards is bolded, like in the one below it. So they are two different color, like two different shades of black. Is it, you know, I'm assuming they're all the same font though, yeah? Maybe, whoever made it.
They are the same font and we had to fit it into things.
Yeah.
So I think
In the boxes.
sometimes within the boxes,
Yeah.
it adjusts itself.
Well, yeah, like, so for example, like, but I mean, like, the
Yeah.
boxes can be also made like different.
The same size.
Yeah, exactly.
But they are the same font, but I see your point about under total circulation, the physical materials and the electronic content numbers are bold.
Yeah,
And the other numbers aren't, so. I think that's
So just so I understand, so the idea would be, this would come out every month. And then what, quarterly, we would get something that would, I like to see the comparisons. Is it going up against last year? Or so that would be a quarterly report, is that what we're?
Yeah, I didn't bring back the quarterly that we shared last meeting.
Mhm.
There wasn't feedback and it seemed like that was well received. That does include like Q1. Like you wouldn't receive the quarterly
Okay.
report every month. You would,
No, right,
you know,
right.
at
So
the
once a
completion
quarter
of
we
a
get,
quarter.
and it would build each,
Yeah,
and then it would compare to the same quarter of the previous year?
eventually.
Yes.
Yep. And that looks or has more content similar to the former monthly report. So we expand upon that in a quarterly snapshot. And then the annual that we work on is more robust.
Oh, Earhart?
Yeah, just on the formatting, there's like the three headers aren't left aligned. They all start at different points. And all of the content in the
They're centered in the
boxes.
boxes.
All, yeah, but they're not centered. None of them are actually center aligned against each other. They're all just, they're just where they are.
yeah. I think that whatever the little like arrow, like caret is making them non-centered as well.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
The arrows aren't all in the same place in each box either, but so there's a lot of tweaking that could be done to make this work in terms of its layout. I would suggest that we actually use this as a test case as we're developing some style guidelines for library materials. Like, here's a document that we have full control over. It doesn't have to go beyond this meeting until we're happy with it. We can use this to refine kind of the formatting, the colors, the fonts we want to use, etc., as we work toward a style guide for all of our materials. So I just want to put that as a higher level suggestion.
Any further discussion regarding the draft statistics report or the statistics contained therein?
I just want to note that in the photograph of the library, you can see the large bush canopy. At the bottom.
Yes.
And just think the bus
excellent
shelter would
shrubbery.
obscure that beautiful bush.
Yeah, we would be able to see it probably from that photo angle.
Maybe they'd even rip out that bush, like put in the footings.
Maybe since we're not getting the children's room, we could get the landscape.
All right, so moving on, Kay Ellen.
Yeah, I want to say that at one point, before we did all the construction, we did have a memorial garden outside children's room that was maintained by the Needham Garden Club. I don't know if they are up to still maintain a garden like that, but there are at least 2 other garden clubs in this town that could certainly give assistance. If we were to approach them and ask if they would assist us doing some landscaping, AKA out front with some garden stuff.
Or even a
You mean
landscape.
over on
that
this
would get
space
the
over
benefit
here
of
along
black
Rosemary or
versus
along
black.
It would probably be along Highland Avenue would be where I suggest. You could also go around the corner. Let's face it, most of them have magnificent gardens that they can definitely divide plants and bring them back.
That's true. We could give them a one-time project.
It would be. So that may be something you may want to consider if the town can't come through with landscaping money. Approach the garden club and see if they're willing to do something for us.
Yeah. Okay.
And the
I can
window
volunteer.
boxes on the front of the building are
The garden.
the garden
Yeah,
club,
they
and
do
those
nice.
are
Nice.
really nice.
Very nice. All right, so moving to old business, we do have a teen room policy. Unfortunately, Michael's not here today to discuss that, but Rob, I'll hand it over to you again for that.
Yes. Thank you. So I'm just going to scoot over and sit next to Diana because I printed it, but it's not here. So as mentioned at the last meeting, we wanted to share with you the team room rules that we've developed to help, just as the trustees continue to discuss a team room policy for the new team room. The work Rob and Erin did about nearby libraries and their team rooms was helpful. But we thought that sharing with you the room rules and what they mean and how they're different than our appropriate behavior policy might help inform the discussion this winter as we decide if we're going to have a policy in place before we open or take some time on that. So Erin, Liam, Diane, and I worked on what you see here. This is a one-page document which we'll have available for all teen patrons if they so choose, but the first 5 bullet points, especially the language in boldface, is sort of what we will have posted around the teen room as just a very easy, concise reminder of what our expectations are for behavior and use of the room and treatment of each other and staff. So the first bullet is respect others. Treat everyone with respect, no bullying or harassment, and keep your hands to yourself. Use appropriate language, no profanity, yelling, and any disrespectful or unsafe language. Follow directions, comply with instructions from library staff. Keep it clean. Pick up after yourselves and dispose of your trash. Use furniture as intended. Do not stand on chairs. Do not sit or stand on tables. So it's just sort of a short checklist of, especially as we open a new space and people are learning how to use it after the town has invested $2.386 million in it. We just want to set the ground rules so people coming in understand what we expect. We expand on the room rules in this document and conclude with an indication of what consequences are if people were not meeting our expectations as outlined here.
The TV screen, though, that won't require headphones, will it? Will they be able to have volume on that television in there?
Yes, but it'll be sufficiently at a volume that's appropriate. Yeah, and staff will be in control of what that level is.
Yeah.
So, okay, so that's good. But we were talking about whether the kids would need to use headphones if they're watching the TV, but you're saying it will be on, so all can hear. Is that
right? So it's why it's really good we're having doors on the quiet study room.
Yes.
For that. The other space is not totally quiet, but when the displays, the TVs are being used, whether it's gaming, well, if it's not gaming, even if it's gaming, that's a passive or active program. We won't have TV on or something.
I mean, because those games can be pretty, all that blasting and shooting.
What else can the screen be? You're not going to have sort of a television. What else will they have access to be viewing on the screen other than games?
Our really important marketing for all of the great team programs we have, including the room rules.
That's it?
Well, there's
I'm just trying to
opportunities,
understand. They won't be able, for example, to watch movies together communally or anything like that.
not on their own. We can have movies as programs. We can also have book club meetings where authors zoom in.
So there's a system that would allow to watch movies if that's.
Mhm.
As long as it's something that's within our license, we can show it in the library.
I just want to make sure
Yeah.
technically.
So
you-
it's more of a programmatic
Set up.
tool than a free tool for access.
Oh, so the kids
Or
couldn't just
any
come in and
page.
scroll through and pick a movie to watch? No.
I think,
So,
the-
sorry.
I was gonna say, the use case I can imagine though, is you have, groups working on projects and they wanna connect through HDMI cable to the TV and project something that they're all wanting to
Google
look at
Doc.
or work on. Like, is that an okay use case?
You mean like some of the like high schoolers coming over and like work, like need to put together a PowerPoint or something
Yeah,
like
like a
that?
presentation, or we wanna practice a presentation,
Yeah.
so they hook up the laptop to through HDMI to
Yeah.
the TV.
We certainly would be open to talking about that and helping make that happen. The location, whether that may be more appropriate in the snack craft area.
Sure.
And where the programming is happening. But yeah,
But it could also get around the no movies, because you could get on YouTube or whatever on your own laptop to project it, even if you initially wanted to do a project, but then you could put whatever you wanted up there, which
yeah,
may or may not be what we want to do.
yeah, right. And all these questions just highlight the importance for the DSR4 related to our part-time team. librarian, So that
Seriously.
we have dedicated staff for the
Well,
space.
similarly, sorry.
Oh, just every evening and every Saturday.
Right, no, 100%. agree, we need that. But kind of similar, sort of like, if there isn't someone there to hear things, you know, how are things necessarily going to be enforced? I know that we'll have staff coming in and checking on people, and any staff can come in and do that, but, you know, I don't know, maybe I'm overthinking, but sort of the no profanity just kind of jumped out to me.
Mhm. Yeah,
As like,
So-
maybe it needs to be like no excess or something like that, because if it's in, you know, vernacular and teens are talking to each other and they're using profanity, not in a disrespectful manner and not loudly and not affecting other people. I know we still have like, it's
Yeah.
subjective and
Yeah.
stuff, but
so we've started these discussions because we want room rules that are easy to understand and
Mm.
don't talk about exceptions. But our staff are going to be trained that one profanity isn't the same as another profanity, and also its context. So one profanity may have a quicker level of consequences attached to it than an oh darn type of
mhm.
profanity. So that's where we're working. We talked a lot with Erin about this, but we want to set something
Could
that's.
we cover it just with taking out profanity, just like any, like no disrespectful or unsafe language could cover profanity, or do we really want to call it out? Because we really want to try to enforce good behavior, which is, I'm okay. I'm open to all these things. I'm not,
The room rules are like an internal document we
Okay.
can
right.
amend
So you'll
as
be
we
putting
see
the
it
bold part
necessary.
up for the kids, but the non-bolded part would be internal? Is that what
At
it is?
least the first 5 bullets, the bold face, we'll see what we can fit and what makes sense with the non-bold text connected to those 5 bullets. The whole document, we won't post it all over the library, but it will be accessible.
I guess if that's the question, then if that's the case, why is the language simplistic, I guess I don't know if that's the right term, but this language seems like it's very much aimed at the teenagers, not at internal staff.
Right, so like on our digital displays, the boldface on the 5 bullets would be what we convey
Mhm,
on the display.
mhm.
You know, as we create flyers, whether for tabletop marketing, we'll have to see with our new style guide how it lays out, whether it's the boldface language or we're able to fit in a short description of what we mean as.
I
our
like the
brand here.
bold face. I don't have any issues with that. I think something more generic that doesn't necessarily call out profanity for what the teens see, I think would be fine. And then we can have the internal things and the different levels and however we want to set policing it. If we say no profanity and then it's at least inconsistently or seems to be inconsistently, I could see issues with that.
Exactly. So we've already started to have those discussions because
Okay.
we actually talked about what you just said
Okay.
about that. So
Mm.
you were really cognizant that all of our reference staff need to be trained about this.
Okay.
So that when you come in, you don't come in on Sunday because you know, oh, they're really strict on
Mhm.
this rule, whereas Thursday night, you
Right,
can,
right.
it's different. So we are going to focus a lot this winter on training the staff,
Do we
so they
have,
all feel comfortable.
can you refresh my memory about what we say about appropriate language in the rest of the library? Do we say no profanity elsewhere?
I'll think about it.
Okay. Because I would wonder about setting different standards, which I could see how they could be needed.
Also,
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Being someone who uses profanity a bunch
Yeah.
on my
There's a
own.
background Massachusetts level of profanity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they're,
Have there been
I guess-
issues about profanity in the library?
I'm sure that happened. It's not like an epidemic.
To
Not
paraphrase
right
the
now.
Supreme
and then
Court,
Rob,
you
I
know
guess
it when
also
you hear
the
it.
other thing, like looking at this, if this is rules for internally as opposed to the boldface ones, why are there lots of references to you and your?
Well,
that seems to
well,
also
it's,
You understand, like,
it's not internal, meaning it's not for patrons. All of this is available for patrons, but we'll be sharing it strategically. You know, if there is an issue with somebody not picking up after themselves, the teen librarian may go over with this printed out and say, oh, just so you know, these are the
so then I
rules
guess,
and.
I guess the question should be then, shouldn't they be posted somewhere where people should know the rules exist before someone comes up and say, hey, you're breaking the rules that you didn't know were a rule?
Right, so we will, and after the welcome and these 5 bullets,
Mhm.
everything sort of fits into these 5 bullets. And then we have the consequences. So this will be available. It's just that it's a lot of text and we want most of the opportunities to convey this message to be simplistic and concise. So the
Oh, I
message
think-
gets through, but we will have all of this content available for patrons.
So I guess my question / concern is, I think there's 3 different levels of what this needs to be then, as opposed to 2, which is what it sounds like you're saying. Is I think there needs, if you want to have the bullet points, great. But if you're gonna have the bullet points, then you have to have a simplistic like option 1, bullet points, option 2, bullet points plus simplistic explanation for the team patrons that are going to use it. Option number 3, internal documentation for the staff to use that is much more detailed in the interpretation of 1 and 2.
I wonder if that's almost more comes down to staff discretion.
Well, the last thing you mentioned about we haven't done and we will do,
Right,
and that'll
right.
involve training for
Right,
our
and
staff.
I
So
think that's what needs to happen, but I guess there needs to be something between just the bullet points and what the staff has.
that's what the whole 1 pager is.
Okay, so that's right, so that's
Yeah.
going back then, is my question is, this 1 pager
Is a public document.
is a public document that the teens will have easy access to, as opposed to just on our website or something like that?
Yes,
Okay,
yes, but not as easy as the first 5 bullets,
why not?
because we want them to
I guess that's
read
what I
it
meant.
and absorb it and do it, rather than ignore
Full page and
250 words on a page.
But how do they
So-
know what, for example, noise and electronics, it just says quiet study room. How do they know what that means?
Right, so the full document may be on like each door entering into the
Okay.
teen room. But on the tables, select tables throughout the area, group tables, we would have like the first 5 bullets, that language. We haven't designed things yet. but-
Yeah, no, I
So it wouldn't
understand.
get into like the noise and electronics for that.
That's fine also, but like, I guess then what's the point of then putting the noise, electronics and the food and drinks and whatever, if the bullet points aren't going to even reference them? I guess what I'm trying to figure out is like, how is this divided such that people can know what the rules are.
I don't think this is so different from a lot of the other rules that are circulated, like at the middle school and the high school and.
No, I don't
places
think it is
now.
either, but like,
So I think the bullets are kind of a shorthand, and I think that most kids won't even need to look at the detail. That's just what my kids would do. They would not get into the
Yeah.
nitty gritty of
Just look
this.
at the bing, 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 bing.
Yeah.
So
And I
all
wanted-
this information will be in the new team room and being conveyed. And, you know, Erin and Matthew and all reference staff, when this room opens, will be using this as a tool to welcome our patrons into the space and
Yeah.
educate them. So it will be used. It won't just be on the website, you know, but the shorter text at the very top is a shorter, easier way for us to convey our expectations and have it sink in more so than if we just printed this up 12 times and put it around the teen room. I'm not sure it'd be effective.
okay, I mean,
But this is a public document which we will talk with and hand out generously to anybody who
requested?
or no, who who is not following.
Right, maybe
All
internal
of the-
procedures are like first time, speak to somebody, you go over and
Right.
provide them with the more detailed, say, this is exactly what you were doing, which is a violation.
And because this is internal procedures, if there's an issue with that shorter condensed version, if kids are not using headphones, you can always, because it's a procedure, without any of us voting on it, you can just add that and put it up instead. Oh, sorry.
Well, you just said it was a public document that would be shared around. That's just, it's not internal procedures. So are these room rules, like, is this gonna be part of the policy, or is it not gonna be part of the policy? As, like, public documents that are policies, we vote on, get published to the website. And so, I mean, it's fine if we're saying this is a version of an internal document, of an internal procedures document that's been shared with the patrons who are in place. It is helpful to kind of keep track of what these things are, what level of approval they require.
Right. So we see this as sort of a hybrid between the two that you just outlined.
Yeah.
This is a document we actively use with patrons in the team room and share with them. It's not a private internal document, but it may change as we experience the teen room and the teens who come in and adapt the room rules. So it's not tied to the teen room policy, which is very short and not about behavior, because we do have the appropriate behavior policy, but the popularity of the new teen room and the amount of teens we expect, and the fact that most teen rooms have room rules in addition to appropriate behavior policy, which is a policy. We think initially going in, especially if we possibly open the new teen room without a teen room policy in place, this will just be helpful to set expectations, to outline consequences, but also to get all of our staff rowing in the same direction and how
Totally.
we do all this.
Yeah,
But
just on that point though, some of this overlaps with the current appropriate patron behavior policy. Some of it does not. And so there probably will be a need to consider how those things are aligned, and perhaps some of these things that we have in here are things we would want in our next version of the appropriate patron behavior policy. The current appropriate patron behavior policy currently has no things about language and profanity in it. And so that would be something that at this point in time is specific to the teen room, the ways that we're policing behavior in the teen room. So just
Everybody else.
I'm trying to map all this out
Handy
for us.
loophole.
I want to map all this
Yeah.
out for us as we think about this, because it's also part of, as we revise policies going forward, how are these things overlapping a line?
And that policy is up for revision.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's important how they intersect.
And once the appropriate behavior policy in general is updated, this might be seen as a distillation of some of those rules that apply not just to the teen area, to your point, but to the entire library, which kind of starts to take this out of being a policy and more just a summary of rules that apply.
I mean, yeah, I'd say most of these things are based. This could all read as an appropriation policy for the whole library.
Right.
That's true.
One thing I wanted to bring up as well is, the ages for the room, and I know that there's a lot of arguments one way or the other and considerations for how the room will be used. I was, in looking at the peer community policies, the vast majority of them seem to go either grades 6 through 12 or ages 11 through 18. It's usually either an age or grade criterion. Given that seems to be the most common approach, and also given that our new middle school will be grades 6 through 8, I was wondering if we might consider making it for grades 6 through 12 rather than 7 through 12.
Yeah.
Also, given that we don't currently have a separate tween space, there were a couple of communities that had, I think it was 9 through 12, which were, I think, Brookline and Wellesley, but they also have their own tween space for 6 through 8.
I think that's worth considering.
Yeah, I mean, is it a high school space or is it, if we're gonna include middle schoolers, we probably do have to include, you now know it's gonna be, this decision was just made to include the 6th grade in the new Pollard. So we should either make it a high school space or.
But that won't be for a few years though. still.
That's true. It's still like 3 years away, right?
So,
Oh, it'll be longer than that.
so maybe it makes sense to leave it as it is for now, but if and when it changes to a 6, 7, and 8.
Right now, it's
How
just
old are
7.
6th graders?
How old are 6th graders?
11.
11 or 12, depending on,
They turned 12 during that year.
Yeah.
most of them.
So the
It
room
depends if your
rules,
summer birthday,
we're just reflecting what's in the draft room policy, which I know is a draft and we didn't approve it. So it is something for us to consider. I would just note that in most public libraries, reaching teens is extremely hard. And expanding the teen room to include people as young as 11 years old is being welcomed. It could end up where it just becomes a tween room that
Yeah, but now
people aren't.
can we make it tween corner in the children's room? Because now we're not getting the children's room makeovers. Now there's no place for tweens to go. Sorry, the history of our town and improving project. Just today, as it settles, and I think I'll get a little more positive, but.
Well, for now, I mean, Pollard now is 7th and 8th grade, so we certainly
Yeah, I think this,
begin with that.
like, it's not gonna be till 2030 that's,
Yeah,
it's gonna be a while till this is something that we have to, has to be changed.
And
And we can
also,
always revise the policy later on to change the rule from,
if 6th graders are trying to get in and really want to use it, then that would be a data point
Mhm.
that would be relevant for us.
And I don't imagine they're gonna be asking, as each person walks in, what grade are you in?
Yeah, how are we
It's
gonna
not
turn
gonna be
people? Well, I was just gonna say
Some
you're not allowed.
vigilante,
We
you know,
don't-
right?
we don't-
Right,
we don't
right.
have the
It's-
staff to
people are
turn it
gonna be
away or
walking in.
check.
unless
It's
something
about the
stands out.
messaging that we're giving. It's not about
Yeah.
actually.
No
This is not a,
Right?
right.
Yeah,
It's just
no,
about
it's
which ages do we welcome into the room?
Yeah, yeah. We already have the distinction between, the programming services collections in children's is age 0 to grade 6, and then grade 7 to 12 is whatever it does.
Right, okay.
Right, and so I think that makes sense in terms of our programming here.
Yeah.
I think there's an argument to be made that, part of cohorts of young people is about socialization together. And currently in Needham, they are socialized 7, 8, and 9 through 12.
Right.
Yeah. It might be worth looking at once the new Pollard opens.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Yeah,
I think
something
part of the
to
reason why we have those cohorts is it was meant to be a temporary solution with High Rock. That was meant to be like a couple year thing while Pollard was expanded in like 20, 30 years ago. But, right,
I would say this is why I'm not positive.
right. Temporary delays
Temporary.
have a way of becoming very permanent. But to your point, if the current cohort is that, but I'm not strongly, I just wanted to kind of throw it out there. And also we can wait and see what the demand is. And if people are asking us, then that's, we're not
Yeah.
beholden
I mean,
to.
just from and I know that we don't have, or we may have the statistics. Are there a lot of seventh and eighth graders, or is it mostly high schoolers because it's just across the street?
Yeah, mostly high school.
Yeah.
The half days.
You're not sure?
I've been noticing a lot of the eighth graders.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like
think they're
immediate, the
starting.
2:30
Yeah.
type of rush.
Mhm.
The 2:30 rush is all the high schoolers probably.
Right, but like weekends and other times it might be more of a mix.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do see younger, fifth, sixth graders, using public computers in educational ways.
Yeah, for their coding practice.
Yes,
That's
coding
what
practice,
it's coding.
exactly. Yes, lots of coders and training.
One little thing, if I like the idea of having these bolded lists like posted somewhere. Just a suggestion would be for the fifth one, use furniture as intended. If that's gonna be the whole statement up there, I would make it, I'm in favor of a very direct statement. Keep feet off the furniture instead of use furniture as intended.
Oh,
Yeah.
I mean, kids sit with their feet under their butts. And they put their
Yeah,
feet
it's
up
not
on
gonna happen.
chairs.
But
I mean, the kids all-
once
I
again,
put feet up on
once again,
chairs
it's the
too.
discretion of the librarians, but the goal is to keep your feet off.
Is that the goal though?
Keep feet off stuff?
To keep feet off of chairs?
I mean, honestly, like I just read this as do not sit or stand on tables. Like,
Yeah.
kids are gonna sit on the tables.
Yeah.
They might not stand on them, but like they'll sit on them when they're doing work.
Stand on chairs, do not sit or
Like-
stand on tables. I mean,
You did that we all did that in high school when you're like sitting on a table, like, talking to someone. Like,
Yeah.
I can't imagine that will ever be a rule that,
I was more of a chair sitter personally.
I'm in favor of.
Okay,
Good
your
for
point
you.
is that use furniture is intended,
I sit on
might
tables all the time.
open an argument.
Yeah.
Yes.
If
Oh, if the
intended
couch-
I sit on
differently-
garbage
down.
cans when I'm
Yeah.
talking to patients sometimes.
Anyway, that's. It's your judgment, but
Yeah.
I think the idea is. Unless you have your shoes off.
Yeah,
Depends on the textiles that we use too.
yeah, maybe not.
No, I want
Yeah, I could-
all of those kids with their shoes on.
That, we might have. some
I think we
time.
should, I think you're gonna get assigned to like, police that.
That is spelled out in the appropriate.
Yeah.
They have to footwear.
Gotta keep the shoes on.
No, but I mean, I was saying, like sitting on your feet, like,
Yeah, but I mean, I would
Crisscross.
discourage that myself if I were a librarian. I don't want my feet.
I don't know,
up
when I was
people's
studying-
feet. Would you want your feet,
Yeah.
would you put your feet up on this chair?
but I got clothes on for it. So like, when I was studying, I would sit, one foot up under, or put my feet up on another chair to stretch out.
I defer.
So the furniture we have ordered is very durable. So
Mm-hmm.
So you're, yeah, you
I
guys
should
are not
hope so.
worried about feet on.
the,
I guess-
the cleaning of the furniture is really important.
But we all agree they shouldn't stand on the chairs.
Yeah,
We should use the
That's
furniture as
definitely-
intended, please.
definitely a safety issue.
Yeah, safety as well.
Can I ask what the next steps are on this policy?
Well,
Yeah.
can I actually, can I ask a question even, because there's a second page of this that actually says teen room policy. Is that an actual policy
talking
that you
about
want us
that
to
today?
discuss, or is that something? Because the first one is the rules,
Yeah.
and the second page is teen room policy.
So
So
that's
with-
the draft that
You want, so we have.
you
to-
all have been discussing.
With an eye to getting out, I know we're already running a bit late,
Yeah.
but
Mhm.
personally, I mean, I think one of the common threads about all these different discussions about the team room rules is that we need a certain degree of flexibility, both in enforcement and in adjusting these rules as we see how the room is actually used. So personally, I think it's great to have a set of rules for day one. I don't know if it would make sense to have that policy yet, because that is a bit more baked in stone. It's an official policy document. Would it make sense to wait a couple of months to approve that after we open the teen room, just in case there's something that we didn't think about that we do want to add into the teen room policy as an official policy document. Earhart, what?
I mean, my opinion is no, there's no reason to wait, especially if we have one that, you know, for instance, we have a paragraph right now, a very short paragraph, and then a pointer to other relevant policies.
Yeah.
The only thing in here, which is, there are only 2 lines in here that are like largely debatable, right? Which is the grades that we were just talking about as a limitation. And then whether or not patrons can actively browse the collection in there, or the ways we refer to it as the use of space, which is for teens.
Yeah, I've questions about that wording.
Yeah, and
The
so we
use of
could get
space
into some of those words and get that right, but I also feel like we could probably nail that down
Yeah.
in January.
Yeah.
We can certainly do that.
Something.
If you're comfortable tabling that discussion, do you want to, or do we want to address that right now?
No, I think it's something, I think, because it is running late, like we should probably like,
I don't think we.
I think
dive
the
into
draft
that.
policy, not the
Mhm.
rules necessarily, but the draft I agree with Earhart. I think
Yep.
you have to have some sort of policy in place when it opens.
I think we can always revisit it. I mean,
Yeah,
That's
point.
fine.
Well, may I, there was some discussion about having a temporary policy that we put in place because we want to have some rules in place when we open the team room, right? So, but it doesn't necessarily have to be our permanent policy. We had talked a little bit about that. And, you know, there's the question of other patrons, how much or not do we want to allow adult patrons to use the space? And I think that, you know, it's something we need to nail down. So, Rob, did you have anything you wanted to say about the idea?
Yeah, I think it's important when we open the team room to have a team room policy, but there is this question about, you know, the doors locking and access to the room and patrons, I mean, adults not being allowed in the space if they're not actively browsing. So as we work through some of the operational concerns regarding that, you know, temporary policy that maybe is revisited after 6 months might work to make sure we have a policy, but then we inform a further discussion with our real world experience of how is it being used, what are the requests, what can our staff handle, you know, to come up with a permanent one.
So to have something in place when the room opens, right? But then have it considered somewhat temporary and to be adjusted.
Temporary in the sense that we are giving ourselves a particular time to evaluate and then revisit. But otherwise, it's published and it's functionally an official policy.
Why call it
Right.
temporary one? Why not just say it's the policy and then
And then we
we
revisit
can
it
always
once.
revise it at any
Right.
time we choose.
I mean,
It
it's
doesn't
kind
have,
of,
You don't have to
temporary
use
is
the word
mostly just a
temporary,
mindset
but
that
yeah,
we,
there
as
has to
be-
the
Yeah.
board of trustees have.
right, exactly.
Right, the board. would
But I
just-
think I really think there needs to be a policy in place.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But we can.
And even if it is just-
knowing that we'll,
Yeah, yeah,
after 6 months
Yeah.
or so.
Right.
It might be an adjustment. That makes sense.
Absolutely.
I'm fine with that.
But I think it might be worth tabling this until like it's gonna open in March theoretically, right? So I think we should discuss this. So I think we should discuss this January. So that way we can have a final discussion on the draft and then vote on new policy in February. So it's in place for the team room opening in March.
I agree. I also think we need more space in the agenda dedicated toward that, and we're out of space.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, with that in mind, is there any further discussion on the teen room rules and policy? All right, let's move on quickly to the Library Arts and Exhibits Committee report.
Yes, the good news that we didn't have another meeting, so we don't have much to report, except that we do have a new artist in the cases. It's Gail Hansen with her handmade paper designs. And next month, Gail Hansen has agreed to display her jewelry. We've already voted, and so no votes I don't know, Gabe, did you want to show
Um,
the pictures or we don't know. I mean, it's up there in the case. So there's nothing further.
Scale, and this will be the January exhibit.
Oh, cool.
We are.
Great. Thanks, Galen. Moving to the MacGyver series, Michael called me earlier. Quick update on that. He is working to get a lecture set up for March with Judy Steen. Is that right, Galen?
Yep, and his tentative date is March 29th at 2 p.m., which is a Sunday.
Friends of the Library, Jay, any updates there?
Not much to report. They don't have a meeting in December. We reported obviously last month about their generous contributions to the library. There was a talk this past Sunday. Wellesley College professor Octavio Gonzalez spoke about the Harlem Renaissance. I was out of town and wasn't there. Anyone there?
It was great.
It was great.
Yeah,
Good.
he focused on Dorothy Peterson.
Yeah.
And some heroine of the Renaissance who did a lot of work. It was a small, but not small, probably about 45, 50 people,
Okay.
but really engaged with the
Good.
topic and lots of questions. And yeah, it was a great Wellesley College professor.
There's
local
a right
connection.
up in the.
Yeah, we have a great program with them.
Thanks for that update, Jay. We don't have it on the agenda. Apologies, but we can shoehorn it into trustee comments. Earhart, did you have any updates on the LFN?
No updates. We're doing a social rather than being in the center. And I'll provide more updates in January.
Got it. And any other trustee comments? Right. Well, thanks, everybody. Apologies for going late, but do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, staff.